I'm Ann Ramsey, and I'm facilitating this session, and I'm really glad if you came back or you're new. This is fantastic. We had a wonderful panel this morning, which explored different models in the United States, in New Zealand, in Nova Scotia around certification and professionalization of literacy practitioners, workplace literacy practitioners as well. So that was really enriching. And now is the chance for you to speak. We worked on some questions, and before I tell you the process, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and my bias. I really love literacy practitioners. I can't support you enough. I started out as a literacy practitioner. I'm an executive director of a regional literacy network in Ontario. I cover a small area of southwestern Ontario. One of our main things we do as a mandate is to support and develop literacy practitioners and literacy practice. So this is, my bias is I'm really enthused. So I'm really glad you came. So I'm hoping to rub on you and get you enthused. So today is a chance for all of us to speak, to really say what our hopes, dreams, fears, concerns are around professionalization. There are in the folders a glossary of terms around these. We're using the most basic definitions. And the fact that we may have different concepts is fine. And in fact, we should probably try to explore those and say, why do we have different definitions? Why do we have different concepts? Leah Morris?
I don't think folders were handed out to the people who weren't here for the first session.
Okay, are there, do you know if there's any? There's one.
You know what, it will be online.
The glossary will be online. Perhaps people can share. Do people have the pink sheets out of the folder? I'll try to find some more. We've got very few, but we'll between you and I, maybe we can figure out about getting, not more handouts, but trying to just have at least one glossary on each page. The glossary is not vital, but if you can share it, it's just a speaking point. So what I'm going to do is, because this is your session, for most of the session, I'm going to divide you into 5 groups, and you're going to visit each one of these flip charts. So you're going to rotate around. There's 4 flip charts. The 5th group is going to settle at a table and look at their pink sheets and discuss those and fill them out if they want. It's totally optional, but at least you'll have a chance to discuss the questions on the pink sheets. Okay? And then I'm going to give you time at each flip chart. You're going to rotate the flip charts. I'd like you to add on to what's already on the flip chart. So if there's a point that's already been made on a particular flip chart, and I'll go over the questions that are on there, you could check it, you could say, yes, we believe in that too, or you can add comments to that. Okay, so it's going to be a bit of a progressive. Does that make sense? Okay. The questions are over here, number 1, and everybody will start at a different center, but trust me, it'll work out. You're with me, right? Hopes and dreams. How would the adult literacy field benefit if it became professionalized? What are your hopes for practitioners in the field of adult literacy? No matter where you come from, doesn't matter jurisdiction and community. Concerns and fears. What concerns do you have about professionalization? What has stopped us before from moving forward? Ideas and solutions? What would need to be in place for adult literacy to be seen as a profession? What is best about our field that we should take forward, i.e. in the realm of professional development, practitioner training? Then the last one is next steps and roles. There's 3 questions there. What do you want to have happen next? If you came back in 5 years and progress was made, what would be different? What would it look like? And what role do you or your organization wish to play, if any? Again, that's optional. So, do you think you can organize yourselves into 5 groups? So I want people to huddle at each flip chart, and 1 group to huddle at 1 table. Can people self-select? Yes, you can. Go forth and huddle. So 5 approximately equal groups. I don't know about you, I'm exhausted watching you. Are you feeling a little bit like my brain's been on fire and a little tired? Lots of really good discussion. Lots of, sorry?
You got us all worked up.
Oh yeah, good. I heard lots of good discussion. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a bit of a summary, and Alan and Elisa and John are going to help me. I'm going to start with the first one. Remember, the first question was around hopes and dreams. What do we hope for the field? How might we benefit? So as looking at these flip chart papers, I'm seeing benefits for learners, stronger learner network for lobbying government, better instruction. I'm seeing benefits for practitioners, better working conditions, better pay, professional association, retention of practitioners, recognition, collaboration, and certainly other sort of outside benefits, source of new knowledge, able to make change happen. So these are the themes I was seeing on the hopes and fears, hopes and dreams. Alan?
Okay. The concerns and fears is a thing here. I guess the concerns, trying to just sort of group them, one concern is sort of like the whole issue of to what extent would more professionalization be inclusive or exclusive? Like the questions are, who gets excluded? Would volunteers, what would happen to volunteers? Would it change the nature of programming? Would the time for programs be shorter? There's a second concern about if we do not take ownership, somebody will do it for us. That's a big one that comes through again and again. Their third one was, okay, whatever this professionalization looks like, will it be accepted by, let's say, boards of education and others? Like, how do we fit that? Questions of cost, and another question, well, a lack of leadership, but will we lose our spirit or passion if we become overstructured? There's another concern that came up on obstacles, and boy, there are a lot. We've got funding cutbacks, lack of standardization, no accepted competencies, no leadership on this bigger question. I don't know, collaboration is difficult all across of different sectors. We in our group kept talking about the divide and conquer thing, like we don't have a way of communicating, contacting, even lobbying based on what each other does. So that given, the obstacles fall into that kind of category over and over again. And finally, no plan or roadmap for the long term. So we haven't been able to talk, even like this, so across provinces.
Okay, I summarized in 3 points for each of the questions. The first question is, what would need to be in place for adult literacy to be seen as a profession? And I think these very much pick up on the obstacles. So the 3 kind of themes I saw. First one is we would need more cooperation, collaboration, cross-fertilization. I drew a little diagram, arrows kind of, there'd have to be many more opportunities for things to intersect. Second is we need research and informed decision-making. And third is we need structure, strategies, and plans. The second question, what is best about our field that we should take forward? And the themes I heard there were commitment and energy for the field and for the learners. We have leadership skills and know-how that we need to capitalize on. And the third one was flexibility and ability to customize.
Okay, we had 3 questions here. Or you all had 3 questions actually. If I can go to number 8 first, because this is in some ways a question designed to sort of bring it down to earth and make it a little bit more concrete. So if we jump ahead just 5 years, enough time for some things to have happened, but not too fanciful. What sorts of things will we end up, could we see? So, funding, retention, unified voice, which I think is an interesting theme through a lot of this. Training, chart, respect, a nice, it's a wish list in one sense, but it's also a useful list to guide where you want to end up. So, going back then to number 7 about what needs to be done, I think on the one hand there are things like getting accreditation and so on set up, but then there's a very strong theme to me about, on the one hand, consulting very widely and being very inclusive to pick up everyone's views, but then ending up with a united voice somehow. To be able to present consistently and authoritatively on whatever it is that you come up with. And then number 9 is what are you prepared to do? And I must point out that this is a bit thinner on the ground than the other sections. But there are suggestions about, I think a lot about communication, I think fundamentally, that people want to see move as a way of probably the prime thing to do. That's my interpretation of them, but
Thanks,
you
John.
want to add to that?
Thank you. So, how did that feel talking about that? How was that process? Don't make me point. How did it feel?
I'll just say how I feel. It's great. There's a lot of energy in the room, a lot of good ideas. But I've been to lots of places and workshops, and it's all talk, and I think it's great. My question isn't about that. It's what do you do after the meeting's over, and everything just sort of dies. And I get a funny sense that as motivated and energized as we are, after this is over, I think there needs to be some ideas or a couple of lead ideas that somebody picks up and runs with. And personally, I love the idea of the professional association. I think that is sort of a nice first step in professionalizing what we do. And I'd like to see maybe a group that's really interested in doing something. Let's do it. Let's start the process. Let's start the discussions. And nothing happens unless we talk about it some more after today.
And I didn't even pay you to segue. That's good. Lee?
One of the points that we identified in the second group up there, because this was our first group, is that there is a difference between being professional and being professionalized. And I think if we use the term professionalized, we won't offend and, sort of those individuals that don't have professional teaching degrees or don't have master's degrees. We're not gonna alienate them. Everyone who works in the field does their best to be professional at what they do. But let's focus on the professionalized rather than just the professionals.
And that kind of echoes what Alan was finding in these flip charts, that concern about who's in, who's out, the inclusivity. In the pink sheets, in the pink sheets, I'll still want your comments because we've still got a little bit of time. Just a reminder, when you have a chance, fill out the evaluation form. But in the pink sheets, you're welcome to fill these out individually if you wish. You can hand them in, you can put your name on, you can be anonymous, whatever you'd like. But just on that note, and Tony had a comment, just on that note, I think the first question there about what do you want to have happen now, let's take a couple minutes and kind of work on that, because it seems like a lot of you clapped because you agreed with, I want to see something happen. And that's, so let's build on that momentum. But sorry, Tony, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I think that has to come to.
Sorry,
Sorry. The one thing you have to come to grips with in this thing is thinking globally. At the present moment, the construct that is out there in the system is provincial jurisdictions who are responsible for, under the Constitution, education. And if you look at organizations like the CMA or the CGAs, who established professional accreditation, they do it national. It's national standards. But you've got a conflict within the education system. So in going forward, I think the first thing that has to be addressed is, do we establish a national group? Because the issue in my mind is, it's a national issue. It's not a provincial issue. It's a national problem, it's national in scope, and it affects the totality of the country. And I think you have to come to grips with that. It has to be flexible, recognizing the learners' capabilities and so on and so forth. But the accreditation part, I think,